When Emily Carter married Daniel Carter, she believed she was settling. Daniel was kind. Daniel was honest. Daniel never forgot anniversaries. But Daniel was not rich. At least that was what everyone thought. For 7 years they lived in a modest suburban house. Daniel drove an old sedan. He wore simple clothes. He never talked about money, investments, or business. Emily worked as an executive assistant at one of the largest real estate companies in the state. The company was owned by the famous billionaire Richard Harrison. Richard was everything Daniel was not. Confident, powerful, charismatic. The kind of man whose arrival changed the atmosphere in a room. Emily spent years watching executives rush to impress him. And slowly she became fascinated. Then fascinated became attracted. And attraction became ambition. She started comparing her husband to her boss. Daniel made coffee in the mornings. Richard arrived in helicopters. Daniel spent weekends gardening. Richard spent weekends on private islands. Daniel talked about integrity. Richard talked about acquisitions worth hundreds of millions. The comparisons poisoned her mind. One evening she looked around their dining room and sighed. Daniel noticed. "You seem unhappy lately." "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." Emily set down her fork. "Do you ever wish you were more ambitious?" Daniel smiled. "Success means different things to different people." She rolled her eyes. "There you go again." "What?" "Those philosophical answers." Daniel laughed softly. "What answer would you like?" "I don't know. Maybe one that doesn't sound like you're comfortable being average." The smile disappeared from his face. But he said nothing. Over the next year, Emily became increasingly distant. She stayed late at work. She attended company events. She found excuses to be around Richard. Eventually Richard began noticing her. Not romantically, but enough to make her feel special. He complimented her work, invited her to executive meetings, praised her organizational skills. Emily interpreted every interaction as proof that she belonged in a different life, a bigger life. One Friday night she arrived home determined. Daniel was reading in the living room. "We need to talk." His expression changed immediately. "Okay, I'm not happy." Silence. Then a small nod. "I suspected that. I think we've grown apart." Daniel closed his book. "Is there someone else?" Emily hesitated. That hesitation answered everything. Daniel looked down. For a long moment neither spoke. Finally he asked quietly, "Do you love him?" "I don't know." Daniel nodded again, as if confirming something he'd already known. "I see." Emily expected anger. She expected shouting. Instead Daniel remained calm. Almost too calm. A week later she filed for divorce. Friends were shocked. Family members tried talking her out of it. But Emily had already convinced herself she deserved more. 3 months later the divorce was finalized. She walked out of the courthouse feeling free. Daniel walked out looking exactly the same as always. Calm, composed, unbothered. That annoyed her more than anything. Meanwhile her career was accelerating. Richard promoted her to senior executive coordinator. Her salary doubled. Her access increased. She was now spending more time around the billionaire than ever. People in the office noticed. Rumors started. Emily didn't deny them. Why would she? The attention felt good. Then came the annual executive retreat, a luxury event attended by top leadership. Emily was invited for the first time. She spent weeks preparing. The retreat took place at an exclusive mountain resort. The first evening featured a private executive dinner. Only the most important people in the company attended. Emily couldn't believe she was there. She looked around the room at wealthy investors, CEOs, and board members. Then she noticed something strange. Richard looked nervous. Actually nervous. She had never seen that before. Executives kept checking their watches. Staff moved around anxiously, as though someone important was arriving. More important than Richard. Emily leaned toward another executive. "Who's coming?" The executive looked surprised. "You don't know?" "Know what?" Before he could answer, the room suddenly went silent. Every person stood up. Every single one. Including Richard Harrison. Emily quickly rose too. The ballroom doors opened. A man walked inside. Simple dark suit. No flashy jewelry. No security entourage. No dramatic entrance. Just a calm, confident walk. Emily froze. Her heart nearly stopped. Daniel. Her ex-husband. Daniel walked through the room while billionaires and executives greeted him respectfully. Richard immediately approached. "Good evening, sir." "Sir?" Emily blinked. Richard Harrison had just called Daniel sir. The room spun. Daniel shook Richard's hand. How's everything going? Excellent. The expansion exceeded projections. Good. Emily stared in disbelief. What was happening? Richard guided Daniel toward the front table. The table reserved for the most powerful person in the room. Daniel sat. Richard sat beside him. Not above him. Beside him. Like an employee. Emily felt sick. Finally, she pulled another executive aside. What is going on? The executive looked confused. You really don't know? Know what? Daniel Carter owns Harrison Global Holdings. Emily stared. The executive continued. Richard Harrison runs one subsidiary. What? Our parent company owns over 40 corporations. Emily couldn't breathe. The executive laughed. Daniel built the group years ago. No, that's impossible. Impossible? He drove an old car. The executive smiled. He still does. He lived in a normal house. He still does. Emily's mouth opened. No words came out. The executive leaned closer. Daniel's personal net worth is estimated above 12 billion. 12 billion. Her knees nearly gave out. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Everywhere she looked, people were speaking to Daniel with enormous respect.
Presidents, investors, board members, industry leaders, all treating him as the most important person in the room, because he was. Suddenly everything made sense. The calm confidence, the lack of ego, the simple lifestyle. Daniel had never been average. He had simply never needed anyone to know who he was. For the first time in years, Emily felt genuine regret, not because of the money. At least that's what she told herself. But deep down, she was entirely sure. The next morning, she saw Daniel alone on a terrace overlooking the mountains. She gathered her courage, then walked toward him. He turned. Emily. His voice remained polite. Nothing more. Can we talk? Of course. She sat down. Awkward silence followed. Finally, she said, You never told me. Told you what? Who you were. Daniel looked out at the mountains. You never asked. Emily looked away. That hurt because it was true. You let me believe you were struggling. I was never pretending. What do you mean? I genuinely don't care about displaying wealth. He smiled slightly. The car got me where I needed to go. The house was comfortable. The clothes fit. Emily felt tears forming. Why didn't you stop me? Daniel looked at her carefully. Stop you from what? Leaving. His answer came immediately. Because I loved you. She blinked. I don't understand. When someone loves you, they don't force you to stay. The words hit harder than any accusation. I made a terrible mistake. Daniel nodded. Yes. No anger. No cruelty. Just truth. She looked down. Can we start over? For the first time, Daniel's expression changed. Not with anger, with sadness. A quiet sadness. You didn't leave because I was cruel. She remained silent. You didn't leave because I mistreated you. Silence. You left because you thought someone else had more to offer. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Daniel continued softly. And now you're asking to come back because you discovered I had more than him. No. But even she heard how weak it sounded. Daniel stood. Emily, I genuinely hope you find happiness. Her heart sank. But it won't be with me. He turned and walked away. Not dramatically. Not angrily. Simply finished. Over the following years, Daniel expanded his business empire even further. His story became famous. Articles praised the billionaire who lived like an ordinary man. Employees admired him. Communities respected him. And eventually he met someone else. A school principal named Sarah. She knew exactly who he was before they met. Yet she cared more about his character than his balance sheet. 2 years later they married. Emily saw the wedding announcement online. She stared at the photograph for a long time. Daniel looked genuinely happy. Happier than she had ever seen him. Only then did she fully understand what she had lost. She hadn't divorced a poor husband for a rich boss. She had abandoned a loyal man for the illusion of status. And by the time she discovered the truth, the man she left behind was already far beyond her reach. Not because of his wealth, but because of the lessons she learned too late. The greatest value in a person is often the one that cannot be measured by money,